Driving in a car or in a cinema, you're probably gonna hear a song today. You're singing like a star to the soap bar, and nothing can go wrong today. 'Cause there's a remedy in every melody to all the trouble we have to face. It's like a best friend from the high end to the bass. So let the music play to liven up another day. Don't wanna hear what the world's gotta say. Let the music play my sorry worries away, 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 away. Everywhere you go, you take a stereo. You never know when you'll need it there, 'cause it reminds you of the times you didn't really need to care. But now we're living in the rhythm, and this prison's hard to break. You got the music so you can use it to escape. Just let the music play to liven up another day. Don't wanna hear what the world's gotta say. Let the music play my sorry worries away, 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 away. Well, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life moving to the beat. Come on, nothing in the world can hold me down or keep me in my seat. Come on, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life moving to the beat. Come on, nothing in the world can hold me down or keep me in my seat. I like my rock and roll and my new soul, a sweet symphony for me. A little country jazz or something funky as anything just sets me free. I listen to those clever musos, 'cause no one ever knows like they do. And when I'm home alone, I try to make a song, 'cause I wanna know it too. I let the music play to liven up another day. Don't wanna hear what the world's gotta say. Let the music play my sorry worries away, 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 away. I let the music play. I let the music play. I let the music play my sorry worries away, 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 fade away, 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 fade away.
Good morning. My name is Liz Jamieson-Dunne, and I'd like to welcome you to the virtual service from Hilltop Centers for Spiritual Living. It's such a glorious day, and we're hoping that both Reverend Dr. Guy's words and the music and the meditation and the reading will inspire you, lift up your soul, especially in this world of really trying time. We need more than ever to have our faith and our belief and our grounding to carry us, so that we can be that light not only unto ourselves, to our family, to our friends, to our loved ones, and especially the world at large. Knowing this, we have such gratitude that we have these tools, that we have the Hilltop Center. So no matter what path you're on, we welcome you. I'd like to open with a very brief prayer to say, you are in the right place. Again, welcome. Feel the words, feel the meditation, feel the music enter your soul and being, and may it provide that joy, that comfort, that grounding that we all so desire. And knowing that this is within us and we have easy access to it, we give such gratitude and thanks for it. And so it is. The reading for October. The prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, my companions are as stars. Whomsoever of them you follow, you will be rightly guided. When a man looks at a star and finds his way by it, the star does not speak any word to that man. Yet by merely looking at the star, the man knows the road from roadlessness and reaches his goal. And so it is. Close your eyes. I invite you, when you take your next breath, to simply be more conscious. Allow your breath to bring you into the present moment, here and now. As you breathe through your nose, feel the energy and the light of spirit enter your body with love, with richness, with relaxation. And as you exhale, release all of the tensions, the anxiety, the fears from your body. Be here now. And as you check your posture, feel your feet firmly planted on the earth, the ground. Feel your body being supported by the chair that you're sitting in. Now go within, and as you go within, know that Spirit is surrounding you with this loving light. That as you are walking on this path called life, you see your friends, your companions that accompany you on this beautiful journey called life. And as you start to visualize yourself in this beautiful open field with flowers and with beautiful aromas from the plants, and you see beautiful animals grazing, comforting you as you're walking, along with the feeling that you are never alone. Just know as you take each step, you're being guided by that divine spirit that resides in each of us. And as you're relaxing and feeling your breath and your body being supported by the chair, you know that all is well, and that this form of relaxation comforts you, slows you down, allows you to make that deep heart connection with the divine, knowing that you too are the divine, as the divine resides in each of us. And knowing the power that you have of this beautiful journey. And as you walk along this journey, you see that it echoes life. And each step that you take brings you closer to that real relaxation, to God, to Spirit. Knowing that this beautiful time is available to you at any time. Your consciousness determines your happiness. So realize that as we think, we create. Namaste. Be there for yourself. And so it is.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another installment of our virtual Sunday celebration. Our theme this month has been Companions Along the Path, which fits in with a sort of a generally large theme, which is we make the path by walking, which simply is this, is that the spiritual path, the emotional path, the physical path is determined in the process of going, as opposed to simply coloring within the lines or following a set thing. Each of us is an original person. Each of us has our own destiny. Each of us, as Sir Galahad says in the Arthurian myths, must enter the forest in our own place. So I want to deviate a little bit from the path this week and talk about something that I think is really important this time of year. And I want to do so by sharing a story that comes from John the Evangelist in his gospel. And there's a story of a man by the name of Nicodemus. And Nicodemus comes and he visits Jesus during the night. And they have this long conversation about many things that culminates with a statement that Jesus makes where he says that unless a person be born again, they will not experience this divine experience known as the kingdom of God. And again, we're not talking about some future event. We're talking about a shift or change in consciousness. Now, this particular part of the story is just pure metaphysics. And it goes back, and I'm going to invite you to consider a few things. We've been talking these last couple of weeks of something that Neville Goddard talks about from his teacher Abdullah, but what we also know comes from the ancient traditions of metaphysics, which is to read scripture or literature or nature, not necessarily in the context of history, we're not discounting that, but at a deeper level about how all these things are sort of components of our own consciousness. Let me give you an example of that. So, first of all, the name Nicodemus, it's not a Hebrew name, it's a Greek name. Jesus spoke Aramaic. He lived in first century Palestine. The leaders of the Jewish community probably did not have Greek names, but the name Nicodemus, from the Greek Nico or Nike or victory, demos as in democracy or the people. So it means victory over the people or a great leader. So a great leader, that part of ourself that knows what to do, that rational, reasonable part of ourself that knows what's expected and does what's expected. That part comes in the night season, the time really where the rationale and reason are sort of giving way to the more subjective parts of ourself. And so it's in this evening, this subjective, this sort of dreamy state, that reason is having a conversation with the high consciousness. And the high consciousness, which is symbolized by Jesus as the Christ consciousness, says this, that unless you're born again, or in the Greek it says, born from above, you will not see all that the divine is. And so, I think the first place that we can go with this is that if we want to live to the fullness of who we are, if we want to be able to see the divine in everything and in all things, if we want to know our true spiritual magnificence, it's not necessarily going to come from mind or reason alone. Now, mind is an important part. We're not discounting that. But what we're saying is that there's so much more about who we are. The 13th century scholastic and mystic Thomas Aquinas said something really interesting. And 13th century Europe, how important is it today? I think it's so important. So what he says is this: he says that our errors that are created by reason in relationship to the natural universe or the natural world reveal themselves in errors of understanding the spiritual world. So if we are off on how we see the natural world, then we're going to be off on how we see the spiritual world. And that is so true. Let's just give a few examples. So an example would be the Enlightenment's idea of the universe being ex machina, of a great machine. And so, a great machine, then we see the physical world as this sort of mechanistic kind of thing that then begins to give way to a mechanistic way of looking at the spiritual world. Or even more subtle things like saying that the lion is the king of the jungle gives us this idea that the spiritual world is sort of top down or patriarchal, that there is the divine right of kings, right? And so that gives way to this sense that we are lesser than. But what we are understanding more and more and more as we begin to understand the spiritual world is it's not necessarily a Darwinian model, where the strong overpower the weak. That kind of thing. But really, it's more of a cooperative universe where everything is interconnected to everything else. But I think this also plays way in how we see ourselves. If there are errors in how we see ourselves as being less than, or something inherently wrong with, or whatever thoughts that we may hold about ourselves, they're going to ripple out into how we see our relationship to the divine or to anything else. And again, what I invite you to consider is this: the most important question you can ask: what kind of universe do you live in? Do you live in a loving universe, an intelligent universe, a universe that is unfolding and learning, a universe that is good, that desires your good? Because understanding that begins to open doors in areas that we have hitherto even begun to imagine. So, I think also as we go into this, I think there's a few things for us to understand. We all know that, there's great joy in this thing called life, but there's also great tragedy in this thing called life. We live in a world that has both. We live in a world that is expanding at some point and contracting at other points. The Buddha so understood this, where he said, all life is transitory. And if we anchor in on what it's supposed to be, we miss what's coming forward to us. The philosopher Thomas Berry makes this really interesting point where he says that that human consciousness must be altered in such a dramatic way that it goes back to something that Jesus talks about, that our awakening or our change in consciousness must be as dramatic as being born again or having this renewed experience. Because what he says is, if we don't have that kind of experience, that kind of awakening, well, then our first birth, the physical birth, the one that you and I are having in this conversation, will never grow to full term, but that we will live a life that is underdeveloped, a life that Henry David Thoreau says is a life that is filled with quiet desperation. So what I want to offer are some thoughts and tools on how we can proceed to this awakening. And this week I was listening to a podcast of two of my very favorite people. Father Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan monk and writer, brilliant writer, and a man by the name of Brian McLaren, who is also a very strong contemporary writer in mysticism and spirituality. And in the conversation that they're having, at one point, Richard Rohr gives this quote in Latin that threw me all the way back to high school, something from the 13th century scholastics. And I want to offer it to you in Latin and then kind of explain it, because I just think it's really worth pondering. And so the statement is, and again, this is 13th century mysticism, how relevant it is today. Quid recipitor ad monum recipitinus. So what that means is this, is whatever is received in the manner of the receiver. Whatever we receive is received in the manner of our consciousness, of our awareness. What we think it is what we're going to experience it to be. And this goes all the way back again to the teachings of Jesus. Jesus tells this remarkable parable of a sower that sows seeds, and some of the seeds falls on the road where it's trampled, and again, thinking metaphysically, what does that mean? Is that an idea, a thought, a seed is compartmentalized to that part of ourself that is influenced by everyone and everything, and it never has a chance to grow. It never has a chance to mature. Or some seeds grow in rocky soil, and what does that mean? These rocks represent the blocks, the blockades, all these limitations that we put on ourselves. And so it may bloom, But because of all these obstacles, it never has a chance to take root or come into its fullness. And some seed falls into the weeds, all these distractions and all these ideas of what we're supposed to be doing and what's right and what's wrong and our obligations and all these things, and they're choked. But it's the seeds, the ideas, those divine muses that can come into a receptive mind that is not cluttered with biases. That is where things begin to grow and things begin to happen. And so, I think, something else that Brian McLaren said in this particular lecture that I was listening to is this, and I love this. He says, we are blind to what blinds us. That we don't even see the things that stand in our way. And that is because we hold certain levels of bias. We've made our decision before it's even approached to us. We've already decided what it's to do. And so, one of the things that I would offer as far as our particular denomination or your own spiritual path of where that is what I'm beginning to understand more and more is it's not enough just to teach new ideas or spiritual principles. What we really have to learn are new ways of thinking, of new ways to receive new information. Because other words, it's like those seeds, right? It falls into the blockades, it falls into the distractions, it falls into the need for approval or whatever the case may be, and we don't even get a chance to develop them. We form a belief and then we look for evidence to support that belief. This is called confirmation bias. And we all have it. We all have it. And so Brian McLaren says this. He says, we judge new ideas based on the ease with which they fit with and conform to the only standards that we have. Old ideas, old information, and trusted authorities. As a result, our framing story, our belief system, or our paradigm excludes whatever doesn't fit in. So let me say what that means is that whatever comes to us fits in to the paradigm that is easiest for us to understand. Now, this is a total survival mechanism of our brain, and it certainly makes sense if you're, running on the savannas of ancient Africa, or in a sense, where food or calories are an important thing, because to think a new thought takes a lot of calories. To think a new thought takes a lot of effort. And we're barraged by information all the time, and we're always filtering in new information and always filtering in new information. And so we would overwhelm our brain, we would exhaust ourselves if we had to process everything. So we take things in, and if they fit into our model of how things are, then we accept them. If they don't fit into our model, then we discard them. It's a good survival mechanism, but it's at the basis level. And sometimes what we need to do is step back and re-examine these things. And here's the thing with the author Chris Jamie says this, is he says that confirmation bias is the most effective way to go on living a lie. Or it's the most effective way to go on living something that no longer serves us. It's an effective way to keep us stuck and to keep us from experiencing novelty. And yeah, it makes sense that most of what we do should fit in to how we see things to be. But if our thinking has been formulated in a way that limits our opportunity to experience more, then from time to time, we need to pause, we need to reflect, we need to re-examine that. I'm thinking about, the world today where it is, in this great polarity that the world is in. And we think we can convince somebody through an argument. Well, minds are already made up. Your mind is already made up about a lot of things. So what I would offer is, in order for us to work with confirmation bias, and let's face it, we all have it at some level. It's not a horrible thing. It's one of those things that's just part of what being human and having a human brain is all about. So the way that we work with confirmation bias is not through argument, but through imagination. We must develop new ways of thinking in order for us to accept new ideas and new thoughts. What I would offer again is going back to something that Jesus says, where Jesus says, you can't put new wine in an old wineskin. You can't sew a new piece of fabric onto an old cloth, because it will shrink and pull the cloth apart, the wine will expand and burst the old wineskin. And so in order for us to develop a new consciousness, we must develop a novel, an open imagination. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today, about how we then begin to do that. And I think, here's a couple thoughts. The first one is this, is that, what's inspiring you? What's amazing you? What's surprising you? What's filling you with wonder and awe? Joel Goldsmith has this thought that I want to share. He says this: take time to work in your garden, or read a good book, or even a good novel. You must learn to stop, sometimes for a day or two, and say, let me not trust my mind. Let me relax in God. Invite the soul. Relax the soul without words or thoughts. God is not in the whirlwind. God is not in your problems. God is not in your thinking. God is not in your books. God is in the still, small voice. In order to hear the voice and receive the importations and its grace, we must live quietly and peacefully within. I love that. God is not in our thoughts. God is not in our books. God is not in the drama. God is in the quiet, the still small voice, the experience of grace. And how we open our imagination to create the fertile soil in which we can quiet ourselves and be. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Other than all the self-help books and this books, or for myself, philosophy, history, theology, what was the last good book you read? What was the last novel you read? What was the last movie that didn't contribute to a confirmation bias and made you right, but made you think and imagine? C.J. Chesterton says this. He says, we don't read novels because we believe in dragons. We read novels because we understand that dragons can be defeated. And so, what is the best story that you have heard this week? I can tell you for myself, there was a story that I read of a young man who had his bicycle at a train station because he made a commute. And when he got back, he saw that the lock had been cut and the bicycle had been missing. And so, of course, he's making up all these stories about how these whole things are. And then what happens is another young man comes out and says, hey, do you know the combination to that lock? And he showed it, and he did. He says, while I was working, I saw somebody come by and cut that chain, And so I chased him off, and I've kept your bike, and I've been waiting here 4 hours for you to return. And so, what a beautiful story, right? Because here was this guy already in his confirmation bias, right? People suck. You can't trust anybody. Everything's going to happen. And then he is amazed and he's surprised by someone who literally waits 4 hours to return his bike to him. And so it's in that stillness. It's in that place of wonder and amazement and quiet grace that we can open ourselves to a new vision, a new understanding of what is possible. Something that we practice here at the Hilltop Center, in fact, most of the decisions that we make are done through the process of visioning. And visioning is a practice that, it's not like, Silva mind control, or it's not like, visiting an oracle where it only speaks but once, but it's a way of training our mind. It's a way of discerning. And it's just quieting ourselves and sitting with 4 questions. And so as we quiet ourselves, as we quiet our mind, as we remove the rocks and the obstacles and the weeds, as we step off the trodden road, as we move to that fertile soil within, that grace that is present, maybe by doing the centering prayer, I am. I am. I am. And when we center, when we're quiet, we ask ourselves, in this situation that I'm working with now, in these decisions that I am beginning to make, instead of looking at my own confirmation bias, what is the divine's highest vision here? As Gary Richard's cards say, how good can this get? What is the divine idea that's wanting to come forth? And then we ask, in order for this idea to come forth, is there something that I am holding on to that it's time for me to release? So the second question is, in order for this to come forth, what must I release? And then the third question, now that I've released, what skill, what newness, what novelty is it important for me to embrace so that this divine idea has a container, an imagination, a possibility to find expression? And finally, sometimes we are blind to what blinds us. We ask, what else is there for me to know? Quietly, and listen to that inner guide, that divine within us. Going again back to this wonderful story of Jesus and Nicodemus. How must I awaken in such a dramatic way that it is like a rebirth, that it changes the paradigm, that my thinking has changed in such a way that I am open to receiving new thoughts and new ideas. And so my blessing to each and every one of you today is that divine within, that Christ consciousness, that Buddha nature, that dance of the universe that finds its expression, that evolution become intentional, that is the absolute authentic and original you is amazed, is surprised, is filled with wonder, and that today and tomorrow we are reborn to a newness, a goodness, and as we change, we see the kingdom. And when we see the kingdom, we change the world. Thank you. So again, as I say in every message, I am just so grateful that you are part of our growing community. I appreciate all of you who are subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's growing every week, that are letting your friends know, your family know, in all the ways that we are allowing this virtual community to expand and grow. And I'm also really excited for those of you who are within the vicinity of Fallbrook that are able to come to our live service on Sunday mornings. I invite you to go to our website or our newsletter and click the Eventbrite so that we can follow CDC and welcome you here on Sundays. It's really good. It's really fun. And you know, we've been talking about the idea is should we from time to time do a live cast of Sunday Service Live? Let us know what you think about that. And again, thank you for your continued and generous support in the many ways that your financial help, your financial support is allowing us not simply just to hang on, but to thrive. It is a worthy venture, and I am so grateful that we are in partnership with you. And so, dear friends, to those whom you love and those whom you receive love from, I wish you many, many, many blessings.
My hope for you all along has been take care of yourself. To your heart be true, sing your own song, don't follow everyone else. And may all of your dreams come true. And when you think you've lost your way, those thoughts are just not true. Don't let them shake, don't let them rattle you. Every day's a new day. Count your blessings, I say. Get out of your own way so you can move. Don't look behind and ask why. Our ticket is for one ride. Green lights and blue skies are on their way. True happiness brings out the best in each other. You both shine, 'cause in this crowded world that's hard to find. And when you think you're moving slow and everyone flies by, well, it ain't true, don't let it fool your mind. 'Cause every day's a new day. Count your blessings, I say. Get out of your own way so you can move. Don't look behind and ask why. Our ticket is for one ride. Green lights and blue skies are on their way. When you break down, make it a breakthrough and do exactly what you're afraid to do. Day and night, life is dark.
together with your shadow, you'll get through. Every day's a new day. Count your blessings, I say. Get out of your own way so you can move. Don't look behind and ask why. Our ticket is for one ride. Green lights and blue